a new reality.
The fires just keep happening.
Wildfires ignite across Colorado, forcing more evacuations.
We're all praying for rain.
Tonight, Coloradans are learning to cope with a new normal.
Our fire danger continues. I'll tell you when we face an even bigger threat.
Back from Ukraine, a Colorado doctor delivers critical supplies to those trying to fend off Russia's invasion. Another active day for wildfires here in Colorado. Homes near Table Mountain had to be evacuated after a fire ignites between Boulder and Longmont.
Meanwhile, multiple buildings have now been destroyed by a wildfire burning in the small community of Monte Vista in southern Colorado.
So tonight we are bringing you team coverage of the wildfire crisis. Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson is tracking an even bigger threat for fires later this week.
First, though, Denver 7's Rob Harris live in Boulder County, where wildfires are becoming far too frequent.
Yeah, Shannon, that's really the reality that's setting in for the people who live here. Now, thankfully, the Table Mountain fire today was relatively small, and we didn't see any homes damaged or any people injured, but it is a part of this bigger reality that Coloradoans are getting used to. The fire season doesn't really seem to have a beginning or an end anymore, and we kind of need to be ready all the time. Right around 3 o'clock, Colin Lockery was coming from Boulder, ready to go for a run, as he often does. And then he turned.
So I pulled over on Nelson, about a mile right there, and the fire was raging. Probably winds were 20 miles an hour. I was watching a bunch of horses get, round up, and saw some people walk in, I think, tell them to evacuate.
Just after 3, dispatch gets the call, and multiple agencies are ready to deploy together at once.
Our fire people have obviously, dealt with a lot of fires recently. We've had the assets drawn by. We're really, I would say, sensitive to making sure that we're on top of the fires as soon as they come out, especially on red flag days.
We train every week.
It's not only humans who now have to be fire ready 24/7.
Fires just keep happening.
Their animal family members have to be too. Jana Ward leads the mounted search and rescue team.
So 8 of us were on horseback doing a ride in Longmont, not too far from where the fire broke out. I got home, I think, around 1:30 or 2, and 30 minutes later got a call out for a fire to go start doing animal evacuations. And we've been called a couple of weeks ago for the NCAR fire. I personally, with a couple of others, evacuated a handful of alpacas and sheep, and that was my first time handling them.
Overseeing the human and animal evacuations was the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. The frequent fires put stress on their team, but they say that stress gives opportunity for growth.
It's good practice for us. Every time we do an evacuation, we get better next time. This is going to be our new normal. Yeah, I hate for that to be the reality. And I live just east of here, but that's what we've come to accept, is that we all need to be better prepared to handle these types of situations.
So the message from first responders tonight is really for all of us to have our evacuation plan ready and fleshed out, and then to practice it, not just with ourselves, but with our family members and with our pets, because that way it's second nature and every single person in our families can be calm, cool, and collected if that moment arises where we need to leave at a moment's notice. Live in Boulder County, Rob Harris, Denver 7.
All right, we all have to be better prepared. Rob, thanks very much. And firefighters in southern Colorado also busy today.
A wildfire broke out this afternoon in the small community of Monte Vista. That's in Rio Grande County, roughly 4 hours south of Denver. Natalie Chuck talked with residents forced to leave their homes.
Law enforcement and fire agencies here in Monte Vista say they don't know when that evacuation zone will be lifted. Right now, they are still trying to figure out exactly how many homes burned during the fire. And now the community here is left trying to push through an unexpected and tragic time.
It seemed like the whole community was up in smoke.
Angela Jaramillo is one of dozens who quickly evacuated their homes because of flames burning nearby.
It was a little bit traumatizing having to leave work and just rush in a hurry to check on my home.
The Monte Vista native is grateful her home is okay, but Jaramillo is also a volunteer with the Red Cross and helping at the evacuation shelter. She knows others aren't as lucky.
So people are having a hard time coping, being that they've had their homes for many years. It's probably really hard. I couldn't imagine for them to lose all that they build in these homes.
Bear with me. I never thought I'd have to do this as mayor.
Monte Vista's Mayor Dale Becker addressed a crowd of people, some of them with no home to go back to.
It was a disaster for Monte Vista, our small rural community.
Local, state, and federal agencies all responding to fight the fire in the dense residential area. Plus, community members offering food and local companies bringing water to help the crews on scene.
For everybody that's here, I am sorry we're here for this, but thank you all for being here. And thank everybody for what they've done to keep this all going.
At the end of the day, no one's alone here because it's a very united community and everyone just pulled together to get as much accommodate as they could for the community.
The evacuation shelter says if you want to help, they need food, blankets, and hygiene products. That is located at the Nazarene Church at 228 Madison Street. Reporting for Denver 7, I'm Natalie Chuck.
All right, so sad there tonight. And new tonight, we're tracking yet another new wildfire in northeastern Colorado. This one burning near brush west of Fort Morgan in Morgan County. It's between 50 and 100 acres, but good news right now, no homes are in danger right there.
Of course, we cannot breathe easy yet as far as fire danger. In fact, we're looking at an even bigger risk heading into the weekend.
Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson is here. Mike, tomorrow and Friday could be some of the most active days yet.
It's going to be really tough for the next 48 hours. It's so dry across the western half of the United States, including here in Colorado, with moderate drought to extreme drought across the Front Range and no rain really in sight. We're going to continue to have weather conditions over the next 48 hours that include fire weather warnings and high wind warnings across the eastern plains, and that includes much of the Denver metro area. Tomorrow will be a tough day, but it's going to be worse on Friday. The winds will be even stronger. Next 4 days, fire weather. Tomorrow, it's at high. Friday, extreme, probably the worst fire conditions that we've seen so far this spring. It does get a little bit better over the weekend as some cooler weather comes in, but not much moisture. I'll have your full 7-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, we'll see in a little bit. And it's not just Colorado. In New Mexico, mandatory evacuation orders in place tonight as a Cook's Peak fire burns northeast of Santa Fe. That fire ignited Sunday. It's now burned 8,000 acres.
We are in April, and there are fires here all over the place. Is this the new normal?
On a dry year like this, it sure appears to be. I've seen, spring fires before, but not this many.
Meanwhile, hundreds of families in Arizona have left their homes behind as the tunnel fire scorches land. This is northeast of Flagstaff. Firefighters from Oregon and Washington State being called in to help on that one.
In western Colorado, at least 4 people were injured in a building explosion in downtown Montrose. This happened at Hartman Brothers, which is a medical supply company located in a historic building. Several blocks were evacuated, but firefighters were able to keep the fire contained to that one building. One of the injured is in critical condition, and the cause of the explosion is still under investigation.
Well, you might have had trouble getting your cell phone calls to go through today. Verizon says a problem that caused an outage in the Denver area now has been fixed. However, Littleton police say the outage still is impacting service there. The department now asking Verizon customers to text 911 instead of calling in an emergency.
And tense moments in Washington, D.C. this afternoon. The U.S. Capitol complex had to be evacuated because of an aircraft posing a probable threat. Well, that aircraft turned out to be the small airplane that was carrying skydivers to the Washington Nationals baseball game. You can even see one of the skydivers jump out. Capitol Police tweeted the evacuation was done out of an abundance of caution. And Congress is in recess, so most lawmakers were not there. Honoring the 13 lives lost at Columbine on the 23rd anniversary of the school shooting. In the spirit of hope and remembrance, today 1,200 Columbine students and staff led more than 50 outreach service projects across the metro. And to learn about ways to honor and respect this day in your own community, you can visit columbineserves.com.
A familiar face returning to Aurora.
If I think there's a move that has to be made or a change in structure that has to take place, I am going to do that.
Former Police Chief Dan Oates taking over APD on an interim basis.
Plus, a hitchhiker's guide to the metaverse. One nursing home is using virtual reality to help dementia patients.
It gives them a chance to go someplace that they may not be physically able to go to.